Welcome, everyone. I am Matt Green, co-chair of the ACES committee, along with Josephine Ishman. I'm going to read our quick hybrid meeting policy. Manhattan Community Board has a hybrid policy that can be found on our website. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance. Excuse members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. And the meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel, and a transcript is being recorded. So welcome again. Hopefully everyone here has an agenda. We will begin with an open session, opportunity for community members to speak, and then we have two presentations from DYCD and DCLA is here. Thank you both for joining us. And then a presentation by the McBurney YMCA, and then any older new business that folks would like to bring up at the end. So with that, I would like to begin with item number 1, our open session, and see if there's any new business from the public to bring to the committee's attention.
That would be you guys.
Hi, I see we have some guests here. Hi. Yeah, if you can just introduce yourself.
First time when I'm one of these meetings.
Welcome.
Artist. Thank you. I'm an artist. We have a studio building at 526 West 26th Street, on Holland Avenue. I've had my studio there 25 years. And on December 16th, out of the blue, we read that our building is up for sale for $170 million. And it was founded and conceived by Gloria and Raymond Naftali, and it's a foundation behind it. The estate is going to be selling it. And basically, we, besides being really upset, we're hoping to find a benevolent purchaser because we believe with our studio building having 200 studios, we contribute a lot to the neighborhood, the galleries, the artists, to the small businesses, to guests that come to our studios and the galleries as well. So we're here tonight because, first of all, I watched everything that you do online, and I'm very honored to be here, and we want to get involved more with the community. We don't want to be separate from it because we're artists in the studio building. But also wanted to find out if it's possible, what we could possibly do as a group. And I mean, probably won't be able to stop the sale, but can we keep it a building for artists and for cultural reasons, which is what it was conceived as. So we're here for that. And any ideas, any thoughts? We're looking for a benevolent purchaser, maybe a philanthropist that wants to keep the last art studio building in Chelsea there. We know a lot of things are encroaching around us. We're between the 2 Avenue schools. We're sandwiched there. It's 400,000 square feet. It's profitable. It's got a soul, and it contributes to the fabric, the very fabric of the neighborhood. And we hate to see that end.
Yeah.
And we want to keep, what brings people to New York alive, which is the arts and the cultures. And so thank you for letting us be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Really appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
It happened out of the blue.
Yeah.
If I wasn't reading for Oddly, the Commercial Observer newspaper on December 16th, I would never know.
Oh, wow.
It's not even in the New York Times. It's
Right.
not even on the listing broker's website.
Right.
It's under the radar. It's being shown daily. We're shocked.
Yeah.
My
And,
wife is an artist in the building.
and it's-
Okay.
and tomorrow evening, we're going to have information. No, not yet, not a single word. If I had seen that, nobody would know. Can I see that? Sure. How do you pass it around?
And we have PDFs that we can email you.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
So the sale of this building is not on anybody's radar.
Right.
You didn't know.
You mentioned,
Hundreds of art,
right.
Studio spaces, some of them are.
Yeah,
Range from 600 to several thousand square feet. A lot of artists split the spaces, so if there's 200 students in the building.
built in
usually say 400 or 500.
Yeah, purchased in 1970.
There every day.
Here's the galleries. And, there's world-renowned galleries and artists in the building. It's not like, everybody's paying their rent, so it's profitable.
You mentioned you're having something tomorrow evening with.
We got together, a few of us in the building, we contacted the estate lawyer, and tomorrow we're gonna have an informational meeting on the ground floor in the former gallery space of Michelin's in Nash, which is in the same building. It's 2 buildings, it's 508 and 526.
I think it actually ranges from 508 to 534, those are the addresses.
Oh, right.
That-
Oh, yeah, so
the
it's not
building
final gallery.
falls under.
And to clarify, you said this tonight when you spoke earlier about coming here tonight, the building is landmark, to your knowledge?
The owner, Gloria Natali, passed away 2 years ago, 96, bless her heart, over she landmarked it, and I believe her. In fact, it could be just the facade for that matter.
If it's landmark, it's landmark, that's the good thing.
Yeah, it's usually like the facade, the outside, or is what's sort of protected if it is a landmark building.
Yes.
We can check, it should be on public record,
Thank
the
you.
Department of Buildings, they have a website, it should say a status under landmark. Do folks have questions? I appreciate you being here,
Thank you so
so
much.
just wanted to see if there were questions, and then we'll move this to our agenda item today.
This was, I think this is around where the storage,
Yes.
facilities are, and there were some businesses on the ground floor, like coffee shops or something, isn't
No
there?
coffee shop, unfortunately.
But there was,
Yeah.
there was a shop, wasn't there, or something?
Across the street, there was a Starbucks.
Oh, no,
Not
it's
a-
all right, but it's like brick, and it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful
I remember,
Loading dock and.
yeah,
One question, my first question is, how many artists are in the building actually, using the studio spaces? And what is your, how are you paying rent? Like, are you guys on a lease or how does that
We
work?
have leases, exactly, we have leases, some people have 5-year lease, but we were just told in 25 years you sign a lease because you moved. You know, this term is not dollar, they gave you a lease, you signed a lease. Now, we find there is a 180-day clause in our 5-year lease.
Oh,
So, even if you sign a 5-year lease in 180 days, you can be asked to leave somehow. There are 200 studios more or less, I was told. Some people have double studios, some people have more than one. There's some artists that have 3, 4, 5, 6 have storage space, and the rents go from, I would say, 3,000 to 25,000 per month, maybe more. I'm not sure of the rent roll. I know it's profitable. There's no mortgage on the building, so it's attractive.
In terms of the number of artists, it ranges, some artists have, there are 3, 4, 5 artists in space. And some have are singular artists occupying singular spaces, or multiple spaces. So I mean, it could be anywhere from 150 to 300, like, we don't have, there's no internal listserv. So there's no way that we all the tenants communicate. And the building administration, doesn't work for the community, they work for the owners of the building, so for the state.
Right.
So there's no real way to communicate clearly with everybody.
Right.
Flyers were printed, put under everybody's door. Posters have been put up and they've been taken down. So we're just trying to, tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll get select information. Yeah. Alex, do you have a question?
no.
Okay. Just one, is it entirely workspace or does anyone live in the building?
No, it's entirely commercial.
It's a commercial building. Okay. Stay in touch with us. Let us know how the meeting goes tomorrow.
I think, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I didn't see your
one more
hand.
question. Who, if I'm an artist and I want to rent space, am I just renting from this like central
It's
administration?
the West Chelsea Building LLC. You go to the 8th floor and you talk to the manager there and they have an empty space, I'll show you. And, you know, you can rent it.
But that is, they're wholly just that building, like they don't have,
Other
it's not an
properties.
administrative, right, exactly.
One building, they were very dedicated to the building. Or we go around and visit everyone in their studios, so we drain them on this, I passed in 2003. Just fabulous, and, you know, gotta be intrigued to get a studio there, they didn't want to, you know, people doing it as a hobby. They were serious collectors and seriously invested in the arts, and, told us we'd always be the building for artists, it's a little kind of shock.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not kind of.
Yeah, thank you for bringing for us.
Yeah, and hopefully it will remain a building as such
It's
because,
so much
yeah, and-
part of the neighborhood.
and especially we've seen an outward migration of migrants or artists since the COVID pandemic and people leaving New York City, so we're trying to keep, you know, artists here to live and work, incredibly important. So hopefully, you all can stay. Please stay in touch and let us know how the meeting goes tomorrow. And if there are things that we can do in terms of, I mean, it's great that you reached out to Jesse. I don't know if you're reaching out to anyone else in terms of assistance, but
I don't know if else to.
Yeah.
I wrote in last night around midnight when I was finished watching all of your other board meetings, and so I was thinking I should get some information from the community and that.
So I think after tomorrow, after your meeting, let's reconnect, and I know, it was, I think, smart to ping the council member's office, they're aware of this. Thanks to your email to me, so that worked, and, so let's stay in touch, for sure.
Yeah, we don't wanna lose another art space. We already lost the theater, and that still has not found a new home, so, we're behind you 100%.
Thank you.
We want to save the artists, any kind of art space that we have in the city, and the Paul Taylor Dance Company just opened there in sort of a public-private partnership, in a new office building, so that's been sort of a trend that we're hoping will begin to spread.
Is that they're repurposing a
Yes.
commercial space? or-
Yes,
This
so,
is all existing artist space in the city.
right, exactly, but, with the new owner, maybe that there's some way of, so you don't lose the space altogether, I'm just trying to think of a way to, a partnership of some kind that you don't lose that space, so, yeah, it would be great to hear whatever kind of information we have tomorrow, and
You
certainly.
can help her. You're welcome. I mean, it's the
Okay.
ground floor of Mitchell's and Nash 26, you can have 11.
Can you just,
Yeah, space.
email Jesse and just
Yeah.
give him all the details?
4 to
I can
6
share.
p.m.
Okay,
You'll go
4 to
longer,
6,
4 to
okay,
6.
okay.
I mean, we've been trying to obtain information about the sale, I mean, just a simple perspective, basic financials, in order to approach. We know some significant real estate investors in the city who are significantly involved in the arts. And, I got a response immediately from the person we reached out to, but not having any specific financial information on the viability of the building,
Right,
how it's run, et cetera. It's just,
yeah.
it's not productive.
It's interesting because, besides being an artist and I'm a full-time artist, I'm a beekeeper and I had beehives on the roof. We made highline honey, the first highline honey. And, that was in 2013 and 14. And then with all of the construction around, bees don't have ears, but they felt vibrations. And so they weren't happy. So we put them back on the farm in Connecticut. And then the first highline honey was made on that roof. And, Laura was very open to all things like that. We approached her with the ideas. And aside from that, the building has a soul and artists are needed. Nobody else seems to think so. We don't need another condo necessarily in Chelsea or, as you mentioned in one of your last meetings, a casino, but we're hoping we'll find a benevolent, purchaser somehow, someone in the arts who wants to keep the arts.
New York City, we're always saying, our electors are always saying how important the arts are and how we want to save the arts, so we need to start doing something about it.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, that's great.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, great. So moving on to item number 2, DYCD. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Kathleen. Okay, great.
Everybody on the agenda is on.
Okay, excellent. Great. Welcome to you all. And thank you for coming back. I know that you've been to our committee before in the past, to give us an update on the adult literacy that's happening in some of our HERC shelters. And we thank you again for being here to give us an update on sort of how things are going. We know we're entering a new budget cycle, and that was one of our sort of, our questions before is funding this, making sure that this is a sustainable program. So look forward to getting an update from you all, and I'll hand it over to you.
Good evening, I'm Kathleen Almanzar, Senior Director for Literacy and Immigrant Services at the Department of Youth and Community Development. So I know you wanted to get some sort of information on the HERC. So DYCD in collaboration with New York City Health and Hospitals bring English classes to the city Humanitarian Emergency Response and Relief Centers, which is the acronym for HERCs. We currently, for this fiscal year, we have programs in 4 HERCs. So I know you were very much interested in the one on West 57th Street, which right now our community-based organization that's operating out of there is the name of the provider is Hannick. They are set to serve 150 individuals, providing ESOL, basic ESOL classes. We also have three other HERCs at the Stewart, which is at 371 7th Avenue, where we have JCC of Greater Coney Island is providing the services there. The Row, which is at 700 8th Avenue, Center for Family Life in Sunset Park. And then the Roosevelt, 45 East 45th Street, and we have Agudath Israel of American Community Services. So these are our providers that are located throughout the 5 boroughs. And they are setting up shop at these HERCs and providing the services. It's, you know, it's challenging as the residents come and go. So part of the thing is as they move, they sort of have to cycle out of the classes, because in order to enter those buildings, you have to be a HERC resident. So one of the things we do offer as they leave is we offer them different locations throughout the 5 boroughs that provide ESOL classes. So I know one of the questions you had was if someone else was looking for classes at other shelters. We have a website called Discover DYCD, where you can put in the information of the type of services you're looking for. So DYCD, you know, they're well known for the after-school programs, summer youth employment, workforce for young folks ages between 16 and 24, and our community development side, where we do the literacy and immigrant services. So, you know, so we have a search engine where you can find a program, and that's basically where we gear people to when they're looking for services if they cycle out of a HERC center. Now for next year, because right now we're currently in fiscal year 25, which runs July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, we are, you know, we have our HERC centers. So we will not know about that until the preliminary budget comes out sometime in the spring, because it's City Hall that allocates this funding. This is not part of DYCD's regular budget. So we would have to wait and see the funding. So we are hopeful that, you know, the funding continues and we have our providers that, you know, are ready to provide the services. But, you know, depending on the budget, we have to wait and see. And that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years, waiting, you know, for the budget, and, you know, we move forward. Any questions? And in the chat, I'm going to put the link to the website for the Discover DYCD. And is there a chat where I can put it in? I'm not sure if you have a chat available.
Kathleen, we don't allow it, we don't have.
Okay, so no problem. So what I can do is, as a follow-up, I can send an email with the link to the Discover DYCD. So if anyone's interested in looking at that, they can do that.
Thank you, Kathleen. Just a couple of questions, and then you can turn it over to the committee for other questions if they have any. Is the 150 individuals, is that among the site on 57th Street, the Stewart, and the Row, or is that?
The 150 is each HERCS is they've been funded to provide services for 50. So it's all in all, we're funded to serve 600 people at the HERCS. It's just 150 per site.
Got it, 150 per site. Okay.
Yeah.
And then in fiscal year 25, can you remind us what the budget was to run these programs?
You mean 24? 24? Because 25's budget right now is 601,000, almost 602,000.
Okay. That's fiscal year 24 or 25?
25. 24 I don't have available.
Okay, but 25 is what I was curious about. Okay, 601. Got it.
Yeah.
She said almost 602.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, a question.
Go ahead, yeah.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for coming tonight. I have two questions for you. The first one is what is the reason that, I mean, I understand that you have to serve the individuals that are staying at the HERCs, but if somebody's already begun classes and they've circled out, and if there's space available, is there some reason why they can't continue classes there, or?
That's all because of security. If you are not a HERC resident, you cannot enter those buildings. That is you have to have the ID, you have to be a resident there. So that's not our, our policy. It's the policy and for the safety of the people who are there. So if you are not a HERC resident, you either have to be an invited individual. So even like when we've gone to visit, it's a big process to be allowed in the building.
Gotcha, okay. And can you talk a little bit more about the program itself? And so, I mean, how many hours is it a week?
That all depends, it all depends on each provider. So they create their schedules. So if they can fill up enough, like, five times a week, 2 hours, they make sure that they're available as much as they can, because what happens is a lot of times is that to get the perfect schedule, to get enough people in is hard because of people's schedules in their personal lives, whether they found a job, picking up their child from school. And that's the other thing, the HERCs do not provide any type of childcare. So, they have to try to figure out, how am I going to attend classes if I've got a child? Because I believe all of these sites are family sites.
Okay. Do the providers give you any data on the population, like the age groups that are being served, or how long there's a
So the only basic data that we get is basic demographics, like what country they're from, age, languages spoken, ethnicity, basic data, but we are not able to, we get aggregate information. We don't get anything on an individual level.
I guess what I'm trying to find out, if we wanted to write a letter to continue to support the program, are you finding success with it, I guess is my point. I mean, I know it's very hard to measure.
Right, so success is very hard to measure because of the fact that sometimes they don't stay long enough to do a post-test. So, the recommendation based on the Best Plus testing is that someone stays in a program for 100+ hours in order to, consider testing time to be appropriate. Our providers will take what they can get because, like I said, you may have somebody who's very enthusiastic and wants to join the class. They're there for the first 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they're gone because they've got a job. And, that's why, like I said, they have very different cycles, very different hours to try to accommodate to the best of their ability on, schedules. So.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. My last question is, do you partner at all with the adult learning at the DOE?
No, we don't, because we have our own, they have their own funding sources, and we have our own. We just started year 1 of a new request for proposal. So we have brand new providers throughout the 5 boroughs. So they, also CUNY has their own funding. So there's a lot of different adult literacy funding throughout New York City. And then a lot of our providers also receive New York State funding for literacy.
Thank you. Does anyone else have questions?
I think one metric that I think would be interesting is the folks who participate in these classes in terms of like transitioning to like full-time employment or transitioning out of the shelter, and sort of like, is there a difference between those who participate in the classes and those who don't? And I don't know if that's even measured, or if that's something.
Yeah, so unfortunately, our providers just come in, provide classes, and that's it. There is support on site that does the social services part, the part of finding out about jobs, finding out. So the limited time that our providers are there are basically, they come in, teach, and then they sort of like, go, because they actually don't have us, the space that they have in all of the places is just like it's like a pop-up shop. So they show up, they teach, they go. Some, we've gone, thank God that we've been through this already for a while, but space has been challenging. Space that's conducive to learning is challenging. Some places have had whiteboards, some places don't have any boards at all. Our providers come with all of their, their copies and all of that stuff in tow. So, any follow-up in social services is really done with the provider that they have, that the HERCS has, to do any of that when it comes to employment. So, we're just tasked to have the providers come in, teach, and then sort of, go. In our programs that we ourselves fund, outside of the HERCS that we do, our providers actually are working with social workers. They are doing case management with them, helping them with benefits if they're eligible for benefits, helping them with employment. There's a lot of a lot more that is required of their work on the outside because of this is an RFP process. And, there's a very much different expectation through that. So that's why another thing is we do, and our providers do this, they do let people know, hey, I have a program outside of here if you want to continue, because that's the other thing, a lot of the levels of English. So they're doing the most basic levels of English. And then if somebody, gets to the next level or to a higher level that they're currently not teaching at the HERCS, they do recommend them to take the classes at their sites. And, a lot of the people that really want to learn are willing to travel to take these classes, and the classes are better suited because the environment, it's a real classroom setting, and then they have a big, I would say their relationship with the teachers are very different, because they could have access to the teachers a lot more than what they would at the HERCS.
So are these classes, the ESOL classes, is it primarily for youth? Or is this for the entire family?
It's adults only. Our program is 18 and up.
Oh, okay, even
Yes.
though it's the Department of Youth,
Right, so we're the community development side. So that's where you have the Department of Youth, the youth side is all the youth programs. They have the 16 to 24 target population there, but the community development side focuses more on the adult services.
okay.
I have two questions.
Oh, yeah.
The classes that are provided, it's only at HERCS? Or does
No,
DYC?
well, we have 4 HERC sites. Classes are
Yeah.
being provided, but throughout the 5 boroughs, we have providers that are providing classes on their sites or remotely, they provide classes. So we have what we call a search engine of Discover DYCD. So if I live in Sunset Park, I want to find a program, they would have to put in their zip code or their neighborhood or their borough. They put in what type of services they're looking for, and it'll populate all the services that are in that neighborhood. And then it'll give them the name of the community-based organization and a way to contact the community-based organization for next steps.
I don't know how to ask my question differently, but I was just curious. I don't know how to ask you.
Are they in DHS shelters?
No, I was just wondering, the funding that you said that you received, does that provide for that, what you just explained?
No, that is, so Herx, it has its own funding, and then the literacy
Yes, that's what I was just.
has separate funding.
It's like a mayoral directive that's being funded by the
Okay.
administration.
And my other question is, I know that some of the Hercs are gonna be closing. I heard that the one on 57th Street was gonna be closing. I don't know when, but what's the impact for you guys or like what are the?
So that's already happened to us in the past. The previous fiscal year, we had a Herx close mid-year. So one, we were lucky enough that there was a community-based organization just a few blocks away. So those who were receiving classes just started taking classes over there. And then that same provider that was providing the services there, they just moved to another Herx and started servicing other people. So we, you know, we make do with what, you know, what's going on. So if something does close, that's beyond our control. It's beyond our provider's control. But the first priority is to offer them the nearest community-based organization for them to go into and take classes that they prefer. That's one. And then the second priority is that if we can go into another Herx and resume services, we do so.
Oh, thank you.
And that's one thing that's totally beyond our control. We just ask that they give us enough notice so we can start, you know, helping people out appropriately.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? We really appreciate your time being here this evening and just the ongoing updates that we've been receiving from DYCD. We'll also, you know, be following the city budget, and, you know, in the past, we've been supportive of this program. We see a lot of value of it. So, you know, let's stay in touch, and, you know, we look forward to future updates, and you're always welcome to come back to our committee meeting and let us know how it's going, what's working, and where you might need some help.
Great. And just feel free to email me if you think of a question later on, or, you know, or if you have a question, you know, 2 months from now, that's not a problem. We're here to, you know, serve the community and help the community out. And then I'll also email the link for the Discover DYCD. So any type of, you can use that link to find any type of program that DYCD provides, not just, you know, ESOL, not just the Herc. So, you know, and just a little plug, the summer youth employment applications are coming out soon. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I believe before the end of this month, they'll be available online. And, you know, once I get that blast, I could also forward that to you. So.
Yeah, please share that with Jesse, and we can send that out to the community boards listserv. That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Kathleen.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening all. Okay. Would you like me to stay on, or it's up to you? I have no problem staying on if you need me to stay on.
I think we're good. I don't think we have any other questions. I'll have to get in touch with you if we do.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, moving on to Ryan. Hi, Ryan from DCLA. Thanks for hanging tight, and thank you for being here this evening. I don't think DCLA has been to a committee before, but so we really do appreciate you being here. I think one of the things that our committee work does is we're focused on arts programming, especially within our schools. So it's wonderful to have you here, so we can, I think it would be great if we could maybe just get a little background on the agency as a whole, sort of the work that you all do at a very high level, just to kind of set the stage a little bit. And I know we have some questions about the upcoming budget, totally understand, there's a lot that's unknown at this point. But we'd love to just get a better sense of your work here in Community Board 4. And we've had a lot of art organizations come in with lots of different wonderful missions, doing tremendous work here in the district. And so, yeah, I think just making the connection between you and these organizations is always wonderful. So it's great to have you here this evening. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to you.
All right, thank you, and thank you so much for having us tonight and making time for us to address the community board. I do think this is the first time in living memory. I'm not sure, maybe ever, but definitely in a while that we've presented. So very happy that Jesse reached out and made it happen. So my name is Ryan Max. I'm the External Affairs Director here at the Department of Cultural Affairs. I'm joined by my colleague Ann Del Castillo, who's the Senior Advisor to the Commissioner here at DCLA. And she will, in particular, be talking about a new program we just launched last month that we're very excited about and that we think you'll be interested in, and addresses quite a few focuses and questions that you all sent over in advance. We do have a short PowerPoint that will give a high-level overview. If that's okay, if we could just start sharing a screen. I'm not quite sure how we're being projected. I see something on the wall in one of
You'll be
the.
able to pull it up, you share your screen, and we'll let you know if we have any issues seeing it.
Okay.
Great, it's up.
Is that good? Okay. So this is going to be, yeah, like I said, just very, very quick, high-level PowerPoint, but we will try to weave in some of the CB4 specific items that you flagged in advance for us being interested in. Get on first slide, Ann. All right. So DCLA, for those who might not know, we are primarily a funding agency. We are by many measures the largest cultural funder in the U.S., definitely the largest city funder of arts and culture in the U.S. Some folks compared the city's budget for culture to the NEA. Argument can be made whether that's an apples to apples comparison or not. But point being, we support art and culture at a scale across the 5 boroughs that's really beyond what any other city in America is doing, and even large parts of the federal government. Our support for the arts community comes through a number of discrete funding programs and initiatives that we manage. The widest reach among these is going to be the Cultural Development Fund. If you see the Cultural Affairs logo on a theater production that you're going to, it's most likely because it gets funded through this competitive annual grant making program. This is really the way that when folks ask, how can we apply for city funding? How can we spread the word among our neighbors and constituents who want to take advantage of the city's support for culture? This is typically going to be the first place you go for 501c3 nonprofits looking for city support for their programming. This year, that program gives out about $52 million to over 1,000 groups citywide. In CB4, that's just over 100 organizations in the current fiscal year, so that are receiving $5.8 million. So a pretty healthy portion of the CDF is being invested right here in CB4. Another way that we support cultural institutions, this one's pretty unique as far as we know, definitely across the US, maybe around the world, is capital funding. So we support the hard costs for around, I think we have projects at 300 or 400 cultural organizations around the city. And this is going to support renovation projects, major new wings of museums and theaters, on down to lighting equipment, HVAC, all the stuff that's essential to be funded for these groups to function and welcome the public, but that often isn't the most attractive item for a private donor to put their name on, so plumbing, HVAC, all that very, very exciting stuff that we're proud to partner with institutions to support. This year, in the city's capital budget, $213 million in new funding was allocated to 80 organizations around the city. there are 19 active or recently completed capital projects in CB4, including projects at Irish Art Center, Aperture Foundation, Atlantic Theater Company, Joyce Theater, the Kitchen, Playwrights Horizons, and a number of others. As I'm sure you're very aware, your district is very rich in theater organizations and activities. So we're proud to support a lot of those organizations working in your community. The Cultural Institutions Group is 34 institutions on city-owned property that receive energy and operating subsidies from DCLA in exchange for providing publicly accessible programming for New Yorkers. These are in all 5 boroughs, ranging in size from the Met and AMNH, which were the first 2 CIGs established way back in the 1870s, to the Bronx Museum, Jamaica Center for Arts and Learning, Snug Harbor on Staten Island, Weeksville Heritage Center out in Brooklyn, and yeah, every borough, every community covered there as well. Happy to send a list if you're curious. We commission permanent works of public art through our Percent for Art program. These are commissioned for eligible city capital projects around the city. So schools, libraries, Department of Transportation streetscapes, and other kind of civic spaces, often confused with MTA Arts for Transit, but this is more often, going to be in the, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the MTA is state run. These are going to be on city funded capital projects that our team has brought in to commission site specific permanent artwork. So what we're looking at here is in downtown Brooklyn, but there are 7% for art projects in CB4, and most recently the MCC theater building that was completed in 2018 included, I think, 2% for art commissions that were created specifically for that space. Last but not least, Materials for the Arts is a very justly beloved program that we run based in Long Island City, Queens, that provides free supplies to nonprofits with arts programming, city agencies with arts programming, public schools around the city. They have just over 2,000 member organizations around the city. In 2024, they gave £6 million of materials valued at $22 million away to organizations free of charge. Right here in CB4, there are around 120 member organizations, and these, sorry, I have a list here in front of me, include about a dozen public schools in the area. And yeah, a lot of these both receive donations and distribute those supplies free of charge. So the Javits Center has been one organization in CB4 that's recently provided this incredible, I think like $15,000 chandelier donated after some kind of trade show that involved a very fancy chandelier. And that ended up being donated to the House of Yes in Brooklyn, which is a sort of multidisciplinary performing arts space. So just kind of one fun example of the arts ecosystem that you all are a part of, thanks to Materials for the Arts. And could you go to the next slide? We also, in partnership with arts councils in each of the 5 boroughs, provide funding that is distributed to individual artists and collectives and smaller organizations that might not be eligible for direct funding from DCLA. In Manhattan, that's going to be the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council. This year alone, we partnered with them to distribute $688,000 to 243 artists working all across the city, across Manhattan, sorry. So those are another kind of key entry point between the city's arts community and city funding to support the cultural programming they do. So when we send Jesse some follow-ups that we want to make sure, you all have in one place to be able to share with your networks. After this meeting, we'll definitely include the OMCC grant programs that the city helps to support in that. Next slide, Ann. And then I'll pass it to Ann.
Good evening, everyone. So I am here to introduce a new program that we just launched right before the holiday. It's called NYC Create in Place. It's actually modeled on a London program that was begun in 2016 called Culture at Risk, where the City of London recognized that they were losing. I mean, it's going to sound very familiar, that they were losing cultural and creative spaces. And when that happened, it was really changing the face and fabric of their neighborhoods. And so they stood up this office called London Culture at Risk, which was offered an array of services, funding, and also a lot of wayfinding through various government programs, technical support, and resources to support cultural and community organizations that were at risk of losing their space. We wanted to study that model, and as a member of the World Cities Culture Forum, we're able to participate in an exchange with London in 2023, where we were able to send a delegation of city agencies, DCLA being the lead, Mayor's Office for Media and Entertainment, Small Business Services, Department of City Planning, and Economic Development Corporation, as well as City Hall, to meet with the officials that were leading the program in London, meet with some of the programs that had benefited, meet with some of the spaces that had benefited from the program, and then come back to stand up a similar program here, but recognizing, we recognized as, given all of the arts and entertainment that you have in Community Board 4, I'm sure this will resonate. We were already seeing problems sort of pre-pandemic with affordability issues, cultural and creative organizations losing their spaces. And not just, even though cultural affairs focuses on the nonprofit sector, we recognize that there are creative businesses that we're at risk of losing too. And so we at Cultural Affairs took the lead to work with these city agencies to stand up this program, which we are putting a positive spin on, named Create in Place, which is in addition to the grant making that DCLA does and some of the economic development investments that EDC and Small Business Services make on the business side. One of the things that we learned, particularly during the pandemic, is that a lot of creative businesses and cultural organizations really need help navigating to city programs and services. I've actually worked in city government now for over 10 years, and there's still programs that I'm learning about that these organizations can benefit from, whether it's the small business services programs or some of the technical assistance or loan programs at Economic Development Corporation. The other thing I would say is that, this is a program that's focused on some of the small and mid-sized organizations, typically those with budgets of under $10 million, which really tend to be, short on resources to even know where to go to find the sort of technical assistance that they need. And the other thing I would say is there are a number of ways that the city supports the arts and creative organizations in cultural spaces, whether it's through our grant making, through the promotion of our arts and entertainment through NYC Tourism, some of the workforce development and media and entertainment, or again, some of the investments at EDC, and then also the Department of Education and Public Art Fund. But there isn't really a central place where people can, where the creative community can access resources that are specific, that are in one place and that are curated in a way where they can find help with their specific space issues. And so this initiative is primarily a wayfinder, and we have set up a resource hub. That's a big piece of it. Can you see that link? I just clicked over to it.
No,
We can only
no.
see the PowerPoint.
Okay, all right, here we go. Now, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, so the website is nyc.gov/create in place. When you go there, it lives on the Cultural Affairs website. And when you go there, you'll see we have a section on resources, studies and reports about the sector that can help organizations sort of make the case for supporting their activities, and then a link to webinars where folks can access technical assistance seminars that we're doing. It will live here online so that if they miss the actual webinar, they'll be able to access them here. We're actually kicking off a series of legal webinars this Thursday that are focused on independent contractors in creative spaces. Next week, we'll do commercial leases, and the week after that will be focused on nonprofit formation. But the meat of the website is really here, where we have really set up a selection of resources that are for cultural and creative organizations dealing with space issues. So here you can access all of the government agencies that provide support for those real estate and space issues, Empire State Development Corporation, New York State Council on the Arts. So then there's, people often look at DCLA as a primary support for culture and creative activities or spaces, but there's other programs that folks can access here through, for example, the Economic Development Corporation or Department of Small Business Services. Or if you're having a problem with your building, there's a link to the Department of Buildings. We have a link to the arts councils that Ryan just shared for some of the smaller organizations that need to connect to those organizations. Capital funding, financing, and incentive programs. Again, we're not trying to be an everything arts. It's really programs that are focused on supporting real estate and space issues. So, for example, state programs like the Excelsior program. In addition to NISCA's capital projects awards, there's also support available through the Red Sea or through the Excelsior program. City programs like Department of Small Business Services, grant programs. They even have a funds finder. So really putting this together in a way that people can find help. Now, in the event that they're going through this and they're still not really sure if that's the right type of help they need, they can go to this Contact Us page, and there they can register for more targeted support. And we lay out how we're prioritizing these because we know that there's a lot of need out there. But when they go to click on the form, it really just asks for basic information, what name, like contact name, website, organizational info, who owns the space, what's the size of the space, how is it being used, what is what are the start and end dates for the lease, if applicable, and then it really gets into what there's a few questions to sort of establish the type of resource that they provide for the neighborhood, but then we also ask, like, what types of issues are you having? Like, is it that you are at risk of losing your space, or are you looking for a new place, a new space, or are you looking to expand? And so they submit that, and then we review them with, I want to go back to the website because there's another piece that I want to show after we're done with this. Once they fill out all of that information, we tell them that we will get back to them in 2 weeks. We review the cases internally, engage city partners if we can tell right away that there's a city issue, like maybe it's a delay with a building permit or some kind of TCO. And then we'll do a follow-up call with them and really drill down and see what are some of the pain points and what are some of the resources that they're looking for. The one thing that we're really clear about in all of this is that this is not a funding mechanism. It really is a technical assistance navigator role that we are aiming to fulfill here. And the response so far has been really positive from the sector, and the issues are really varied. There's one organization that was forced to shut down because construction next door to them had made the conditions unstable at their facility. They had a collection that they were concerned about. They were shut and they weren't sure how they were going to safeguard the collection. They reached out to us. We put them in touch with the National Heritage responders, and they were able to troubleshoot. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. And then, or there's another group where they were about to open their theater. It was a new facility, but there were some delays with some of the permitting. There were some miscommunications around that, and we were able to help them navigate that and resolve those issues so that they were able to open in time to start rehearsals. And then just one more example, there's a small nonprofit arts group. It's a very tiny nonprofit arts group that has an opportunity to create a community hub at a pretty significant piece of real estate in Queens. That's not a level of expertise that they have. And so we've been able to connect them with some pro bono consulting and some government programs to help guide them through that process. So as you can see, there's like a really big range of issues that we're trying to address. And in addition to doing intake, we're also inviting organizations to submit information about space that they might have available. And this can be landlords and developers, or it could also be just other nonprofit organizations that have space that they don't know how to fill. Often we hear about dance studios that are, or theaters that are active for, 3 months, and then they're looking for renters. And so what we're hoping is that by inviting people to submit information about their space, that we'll be able to accumulate some really good information about space available and possibly even do some matchmaking. This is the form for that, just to give you a sense. We try to keep these forms really basic because we know that there is going to be a considerable amount of follow-up. So that, I think that's the end of my presentation. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. I love this. This looks like an incredible resource. And we actually might have another example here. Unfortunately, we have 2 members of the public here who are at risk of losing their artist studio space. I don't know if you were on earlier to hear a little bit about what they're going through, but I think it's timely that you are here and they are here and we can connect these resources to you. It sounds like there's a webinar that's coming up on Thursday. Would love to get the information for that, and it sounds like this is something to share at your tenant meeting tomorrow. Yeah. So just making these connections is exactly sort of what we want to do as a community board, as a committee. So this is incredibly valuable information. This looks like a great program that you're launching. And we would be more than happy to help spread the word about it. And we have, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have many organizations that come in here seeking support in many different ways, whether that's funding or outreach, connecting with local schools. So now being able to connect with DCLA directly on this and knowing the resources that you all have available, it's just another tool that we can provide some of our nonprofit organizations that we work with. So thank you for this, really valuable information. We'll turn to questions from the committee.
Definitely, I agree. This seems you know, extremely valuable. Everyone's looking for this. I'm really interested in, the portion of the website where like landlords could provide information that they're needing to fill space, because that seems to be a common theme that we're hearing. I'm just wondering, we had sent your department a letter about 2 years ago for the new federal theater. Do you know anything about that? We
Yes.
lost. Okay.
So I wasn't here 2 years ago, but what I can tell you is we are actually working. New Fed was brought to my attention when we were just in development on this project. And so I actually referred them. We have a program at DCLA that's fairly new. It's a pre-scoping program where the organizations are selected from. I think we take on like 2 to 4 organizations a year. We match them with a consultant to do some real sort of feasibility work with them, and so they've been accepted into that program, and they're working with them right now.
Great news. Thank you so much. Okay, questions?
Do you have questions?
Yeah,
You would like to?
Did you
have this
hear-
opportunity? Yeah.
did you hear the beginning of the meeting?
I caught a part of it, but I couldn't keep I couldn't keep track of like where it was. But I had actually messaged Ryan. I was like, sounds like a create and place issue. And so, you know, I'm happy to follow up with you after this, just to better understand what some of the issues are. Sorry?
Space. It's a 400,000 square foot space full of artist studios and galleries. It is the largest such space in the city. It's 10 stories on one side, 12 on another, and with world-class galleries downstairs and some of the most important artists in New York working in the building as well. There's a whole range, including lower and middle tier galleries, which were really crushed during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And Gloria Naftali offered below market rate leases for artists and galleries. On the open market, they would easily be 50% more expensive.
And so now
Losing these spaces, you're talking about hundreds of artists that will be losing the space in which they're able to earn their livings.
And the building's been sold?
No.
It's being sold.
It's being sold.
It's being sold. Okay.
It's on the market.
Okay.
And we found out the Wednesday before, on the 16th of December. So we will definitely follow up with you.
Yeah, we would love for DCLA to connect with folks, the artists in this building, see what's possible. So we'll make sure that contact information can be exchanged and followed up on. So it's great. Yeah. Other questions? Jason?
Quick, any update on the fire museum? What's going on with it?
That was the one that I was referring to. That was the museum that had to shut down, and that we had to connect them with the National Heritage responders. They are actually working on a pop-up exhibit in the interim while their facility is being worked on. I'm actually supposed to have a meeting with Patty tomorrow just to get an update on how that's going. But she's still plugging away, and they're figuring out a way forward, and we're doing the best we can to help them with that.
That's great. Tell her what David says hello.
Okay.
Any other questions? We hope you all come back. We would love to continue the conversation and to continue to get updates. And if organizations come in who have a need, we'll be sure to make sure they know the resources that you all have available, especially this new initiative, which sounds like a really great resource. So please stay in touch, and we'll do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been great. I also, one quick question for you all. During the beginning conversation, like Ann said, it was a little hard to follow who was saying what, but someone also mentioned a theater organization in the district that was looking maybe for a space, or I didn't catch the details, but it'd be great to get more info on that as well in the follow-up.
Oh, no, Ryan, we can follow up with you. I can't remember offhand what space that we were referring
There
to.
was another theater, but I'll have to look it up, but we'll definitely get back to you on that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have one hand up from the public, so I just brought him over, Mike Freeman. Mike, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. I'm Mike Freeman. I'm a band leader, musician, and producer in the Hell's Kitchen, a longtime resident of Hell's Kitchen. I advocate for the inclusion of local residents, local musicians, and artists on programming at art institutions, new building developments in the neighborhood. One of the questions I have a lot of questions for you, but I'll spare you that. One of the questions I have, is there any direct funding to individual artists through the DCA?
So the short answer is no. I think from time immemorial, not sure why it's been not allowed for the city to directly support artists. What I mentioned earlier, though, was our partnership with, there's an arts council in each of the 5 boroughs that we work with to distribute money to individual artists. In Manhattan, that's the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, which, despite their name, actually serves the entire borough.
Right.
I'm
aware of LMCC. I'm actually a grantee. I've gotten several grants from LMCC.
Great.
So I was wondering if there's a way for individual artists to go directly to the DCA. You're saying no, correct?
No, we give money to LMCC that they in turn grant out to artists. $688,000 in the current.
One of the things I wanted to bring to your attention, through funding through the LMCC, the times that I have been funded through them, the funding is enough to do a project, to do a performance or something, but it's not enough to do a project and rent a space in this neighborhood. This neighborhood is impossibly expensive to find a venue to perform. And venues that you would think would be open to a free performance, because the funding is coming from LMCC to do a performance, you would think they would jump at the chance to have a performance. They completely ignore you. One example is Hudson Yards, because I went there 2 years in a row and was completely ignored, and I had funding. All I needed was a space out on their plaza to do a performance. So that's the kind of thing that I wanted to bring to your attention. The Times Center used to have a pro bono agreement of some sort, where they allowed performances, nonprofits to come in and do a performance there pro bono. They don't have that anymore. They're now charging $4,000 an hour to nonprofits to do a performance at the Times Center.
Wow.
There are other venues in the neighborhood that are perhaps more reasonable, $2,000, $2,500 to rent a space. But as you see, if you look at the funding that you get from LMCC, it's not enough to spend $2,500 on a space and do a performance.
Right.
And I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. When you mentioned Hudson Yards, does that mean that you're open to outdoor, or are you specifically looking for
I was looking
indoor
for either.
spaces?
In fact, the grant I got was to do one performance outdoors in a park and another performance indoor at a theater.
Okay.
That's specifically what my grant proposal was.
Okay. Because when it comes to outdoor, it sounds like maybe you were already in touch with the Parks Department, but they have a whole program and staff dedicated to temporary arts installations and performances that happen on Parks property. And then our colleagues at the Department of Transportation also have a couple of different programs that might be able to help you find a space, including their Open Streets program, which has its next deadline coming up at the end of the month, at the end of January, for any programming that's going to happen before June 30th. And then you have until March 31st for programming that's happening after June 30th. But I can include links to those in the follow-up that I send to Jesse.
Right. Open Streets, I would be interested in finding out more about. Another thing I could bring to your attention about the Parks Department, at least in this neighborhood, they are very reluctant, if unwilling, might be the better word, to allow any kind of music performance with amplification. So even if you get a park someplace, you can get a permit, but they will sometimes the Parks Department will sometimes put in the permit that you're not allowed to use the electricity. Or the electricity is not accessible, and they will not allow you to get access to the electricity to put on a performance. So that's, again, just something I wanted to bring to your attention.
Mike, there's actually on the Create and Place website under the webinars, there is actually a webinar that we did with Department of Transportation about open streets. So we'll get you the info as well, but if you want to take a look at that, it might be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your time again. We hope to see you again.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, and so moving on to McBurney YMCA. Hi, John. Welcome.
Good evening. Good to be here. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Great. So I'm going to keep this relatively low tech and relatively short given the time of the evening. But other than having met with Jesse, I'll introduce myself formally. John Rappaport, I'm the Executive Director of the McBurney Y at 14th and 6th. And to be in front of all of you tonight is because we serve a large population to the north, to the south, the east, and west of the Y, which certainly overlaps the areas that you are all focused on. So very much appreciative to be here with all of you tonight. And why? Very simple, as I've said to Jesse, to reestablish the Y's connections to the community, and where they didn't exist, well, then we're going to start making sure that they do. So much was taken away by the pandemic, and my goal is to really bring us back to where we need to be. First and foremost, and this is probably obvious to most people, we are part of a 501c3 not-for-profit organization, which is committed to community impact. We're one of 26 locations in New York City. However, I'm focused on what we do in our immediate vicinity. You all probably know about our pool and fitness offerings. What you may not know about is our after-school program at PS 33 on 9th Avenue, which is funded by the City Council, and particularly thanks to Councilman Botcher for that. But we run programming outside of what people normally expect us to do. And this fully funded program at PS 33 is an example of some of the work that we can do. The families and all 65 kids pay not a single dime to participate in quality after-school programming from September through June. We also offer a summer day camp with 150 kids a day. And PS, if anybody knows of a very great location in an elementary school or a church or so on that could handle elementary school age kids, in order for us to grow the program, we need to go outside of our own four walls. We also offer, and I'll just tell you about two other things, something called Teen Night Out, which is a little bit of a misnomer. We have weekday afternoon programming and Saturday evening program that serves teenagers from the community at absolutely no cost to them or their families. And we're going to be continuing to grow and expand that. Lastly, I want to tell you, again, to keep what I say tonight brief, is we offer financial assistance for any programming we charge fees for in order to cover their costs. We provide financial assistance and quite a bit of it. I want to give you a very real person, though, to consider, not just a description of a program. Her name is Hazel. Hazel is a senior. I can't tell you how old she is because my mother and my grandmother would be looking down on me and say, you don't ask a woman's age. So I'm going to stay to that stricture, which has kept me in their good graces so far. But she lives on a very limited income, and she's at the Y because she's on financial assistance. What makes Hazel even more amazing, and one of the reasons why I do the work I do, in November, she actually provided support to the same financial assistance program that she benefits from. She went on jury duty. She sent us a check for the $40 that she'd received for participating in her public service because she knows it's that important. So I am part of an organization that is trying to make sure that we do the best for our community possible. P.S. Hazel keeps me accountable. If she doesn't see me for a week or two, she gives me a lot of heck and tells me, where have you been? So I wanted to give a very short introduction to the work the Y does. I have from Jesse already all the meetings for the rest of the year. And I just want to wrap up by saying two things. Our location serves more than 10,000 people in the immediate area, covering all of the people that you're focused on and then some. We're looking to grow our impact, but most of all, we want to make sure people know some more of what we do besides being a gym and swim, because we're a lot more than that. Lastly, I want to say thank you for allowing a little bit of time this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, John. We appreciate you being here. And I would also just recommend members of the public can come to our full board meetings. And at the beginning, they are given 2 minutes to get any updates that they would like to share. So very often folks from the Highline are there, other organizations. And so if there's ever an event, if there's a summer camp that you want to bring to the community's attention, that would be another good place to do so. And those are our monthly full board meetings, but really appreciate you being here at our committee this evening. And it's great to hear about the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw Ella's hand first.
John, thank you. In terms of, is there capacity in the aftercare program that you guys have for school that is so that you can work with like other schools in the area? Because I've heard so much that aftercare is such a need for so many of our community members. But yeah, you're absolutely correct in the assumption that I don't think it comes top of mind for a lot of families to look into the YMCA.
Right. So what we do is, first approach the local school to see what the need is. I mean, sometimes there are other providers that are already there, or sometimes there's an untapped need. And then depending on, we can work with one of two models. Obviously funded, especially in this day and age of what costs are for childcare, so we can provide it at low or no cost is our first choice. There are other situations in which we do it on a fee-for-service basis so we can cover the cost of doing the programming. But it's going to be based on what the need of the particular school is. PS33, for example, we went from 30 to 65 kids this year. The funding allowed us to do it, and the school had the need, so we were able to grow it. But we recognize, because our location, I'd been at the location previously, we'd served more schools and more families through our aftercare programs. And so those are the opportunities we're going to be looking for over the next several years. And it's based on, school and community needs and taking it from there. So I hope that answers what you were asking.
So, yeah, thank you. How much does it cost to, I guess, sign up for aftercare? I mean, it sounds like it's free if, I'm assuming if you're like, if your income's below a certain level, or it's free irregardless, or?
So the model I mentioned at PS33, there's absolutely no cost to any of the parents, regardless of financial circumstances. And if there is a program that we would establish that is fee-for-service based, then we certainly make sure we provide financial assistance, which is determined based on fairly simply household income and if there are any other extenuating circumstances.
Thank you for coming, by the way. Lucas, what would membership be like for a single person, just to join your gym and use the gym?
So it would depend on the person's individual situation. If they are in the position of being able to pay full freight, then it's just a little over $100 a month. But a pretty significant portion of our members are on some form of support from us or another. Hazel's just one example, and in her case, it's fairly significant support. because her financial circumstances dictate that.
You don't compete like Planet Fitness or something like that, in terms of pricing.
We don't compete with Planet Fitness in any way, shape, or form. Their economic model is one that works for them, and they built an IPO based on that. But their model is not about retaining and serving. It's about really just moving people through and having them use the facilities. Our model is about attracting and keeping people with us for the long term. So we look at it as the initial connection. You know, in January, everybody wants to join because we all want to get ready for whatever we want to do over the summer. And we certainly are part of that, but our goal is to keep people for as long as possible. And the particular McBurney location, pre-pandemic, had more than 300 members who'd been with us 20 or more years. And that's the model we really work with. We've been in the community for well over 100 years. 14th Street is our third location, and we're going to be around for quite a bit more time. So without over proselytizing, because I realize I'm doing some of that, our goal is a long-term relationship and connection, not just a processing of a transaction.
It's all great information. Thank you so much, John. I know that my daughter and I both have been members at some point in time at the McBurney and also taken classes there, so big fans. And the work that you're doing at PS33, that's definitely news to me, and I love that you're doing this after-school programming. Have you spoken to the councilman's office about a school for the summer? Like, since they put you with PS33, is there a possibility that they could?
We have working with the council member's office and also some of the local bids just to extend the relationships further. We're still in the search. Unfortunately, what we run into is that some of the schools, let's say PS41, which is very close to us, is doing construction over the summer. A number of schools are doing that kind of work or running a full summer program themselves. So we're still on the search and hopeful. Because we can probably double the number of kids and families we serve if we're able to secure appropriate space. The only difficulty for us is it has to be within a reasonable distance of the Y. So when the kids come for swimming, we can actually get them there relatively easily. And the second, it has to be a space that be adaptable or already in use for elementary school age children. Which is why some of the high school campuses are really out for us, because the furniture doesn't even begin to touch the sizes that we need. So we have had some good leads from the council member's office and some from others, and we're continuing to pursue them. However, in the world of marketing, what our concern is, mentioning it to a broader audience is one of the reasons why I did say that in passing tonight.
Would the Salvation Army be a possibility on 14th?
It might very well be. We've had to navigate some other issues with them first and some of the populations that they serve. But it is certainly a possibility that we're beginning to look into. So now that I think we've solved the immediate issues that were taking in place in front of our building.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of large spaces, and I don't know what it's like really inside. It's been a while, but it's a very large space and it's very close. So that just
absolutely, and I appreciate that.
Just one other question. So you said that pre-pandemic you had 300 members. Is that, so where are you now and where are you trying to get to be?
So pre-pandemic, and I may have misspoken a little bit. So pre-pandemic, we had probably, we measure membership by membership units, which is the number, however many people on the membership, it's one unit. So prior to the pandemic, we were probably about 6,000 membership units. Right now, we're hovering around 4,200. So we've come back a good way, but we're still a significantly smaller operation than we were pre-pandemic.
So you're just kind of making, I'm just trying to, you know, I assume you're here, you're making the rounds, kind of just sort of letting people know that you're out there and you're still going strong and all that. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I've been back for about 8 months, and there's still quite a bit more of that needs to be done. But yes, that's part of our approach.
Great. I don't see any other questions. So So thank you again, John. Please stay in touch and do attend some of our full board meetings and feel free to give updates and how things are going.
I would be
Oh,
very
great.
happy to.
Looks like there is one question from Miguel Acevedo. Hey, Miguel.
I'm Miguel Lassie, the Tenant Association President of Robert Fulton Houses. I would love to invite you to one of my tenant association meetings. So my residents, especially many that can't afford to go to either Planet Hollywood or any gym, especially have an opportunity to swim in the community so they can know what you offer, because many can't, like I said, can't afford any gym, anywhere to go. And if you could afford them financial aid, I'll take the opportunity and advantage of you coming to one of my meetings.
I would be very honored and happy to do that, Miguel.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
very welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks, Miguel.
Thank you.
All right, great. Best of luck, John. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate everybody's time this evening.
Thank you, John. Okay, so the last is old and new business. I have just two items. The first is the panel for education policy. I sent around a resolution earlier this afternoon. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, Jesse was kind enough to print out some copies here. So this was brought to our attention over the weekend. I think, there's a lot of anxiety about the new administration that's coming in. This is really reaffirming the New York Public Schools position about being welcoming to all students, but especially migrant seekers and the families, and making sure they're connected to resources, legal services, social services, and there's no discrimination that takes place. So this is going to be up for consideration later this month. And I think it's, in terms of the position of this committee and hopefully the board, it's a position that I think, we may want to think about adopting. This is something that we as a community value in terms of having all students being welcomed here in our public schools. And so just wanted to open it up for a discussion about the committee, see if there's any questions, feelings, thoughts. But hope you all can,
Times had an article about it. So
Did they really? Yeah.
New York today, I think.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
hear what you said.
The New York Times wrote a piece.
I saw that this morning,
Yeah.
and I was very excited to see your email, so it's like, okay, great, it's gonna bring it up as new business. I think this is a great resolution. Are you asking Matt if we want to like write a letter in support, or is it kind of adopting this in our own way?
Yeah, I think it could come as a letter sort of supporting the resolution of the panel for education policy. And just sort of reiterating sort of their positions that as a community board, we support this. And so I think that's sort of the format in which we would go through.
Right, because the resolution is really supporting what New York City Public Schools is already doing. They have a policy that welcomes all students, so they're just kind of supporting that in detail. And so if we did a letter, we would also support that in detail, but then talk about the background of why this is so important to us, because we have over 600 students in temporary housing in 5 of our elementary schools. Most of them are asylum seekers from somewhere. And that's, largely in part due to the HERPs that are here. So I think this is very timely, and so I think we should definitely consider writing something. So if somebody wants to make a motion.
I make the motion.
Second, all in favor? Great.
Okay, so I'm happy to draft a letter. Yeah, so sorry, Jesse. I'm happy
sorry, who made
to.
the second?
Dave
Dave made the motion.
Oh, simultaneous,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, so I'm happy to write the letter and just sort of give the background on why this is very important to us here. And also just that we support what the DOE is doing in terms of their welcoming program, and outlined, the points that he makes stuff here, so everybody, full board will know what they're voting for. So I think it's important to include all of these points at the bottom. So that's basically the letter.
I don't think it's important we mention it to reiterate that, you know, we're speaking from actuality. We're not speaking from it, because we've actually have immigrants and.
Absolutely,
So,
600
I
kids,
think-
absolutely.
Right, so I think that should be, you know.
First, that will be up front.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're not just, it's not abstract.
Right, I agree.
Yeah. The other new item I wanted to bring up, and I think I brought this up to this committee months ago, but maybe not. So I came across, a flyer from Community Board 8. They do an annual art show in their community, and I was like, why aren't we doing anything like this? And we have artists in the room. And so I had a good call with their district manager about how they do this. It is quite a bit of work, but they have really put together the materials and how they sort of get artists involved. They do it outside, they take advantage of the Open Streets program. And so I'm gonna get materials and kind of look through how this works. I think it would be really exciting for our community board to do something like this. We would certainly need some volunteer help from this committee, so I would look to you all to help with this, and we can come up with roles and how this would go. But if we were to do something like this, I was thinking like it wouldn't happen until like September. Because there is quite a bit of planning, especially if we were to do this for the first time. But I just kind of wanted to put this idea out there, because I don't know if I've brought it up to this committee before, but I think it would be a really great community building event. It would really showcase a lot of the local artists that we have here in the community board. And so they find a lot of value and success doing it on the Upper East Side. So yeah, so more to come on it, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there if anyone's interested, you know.
Good idea. Would you consider, combining it maybe with the open, not the open streets, the, on 21st Street.
22nd Street, the longest table?
Yeah, the longest table.
Yeah, that's an open street, so I think like, those are the things that,
Combination
yeah.
that day, maybe,
Yeah.
have it so people go to that.
Yeah.
Either they come to the art first or they come to it after that.
Yeah, it could be a combination of things. I think that's a great idea. So I think we're using things that are already in place. We don't have to kind of create a space and figure this out. Like, we know that there are designated areas for this type of use, and so let's kind of plug into that. They also do like live music. So we could talk to some of our local musicians and see if they are able to perform. But anyway, lots of details to be figured out, but a lot of it has been done already. So they're gonna send materials, and then whoever's interested, we can start thinking through how we can start planning this.
Can you use like a snapshot? Like, I'm just curious of like the vision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's sort
what
of
is
like,
it?
so,
Yeah.
so they're gonna be doing one this spring, so we should all check it
Yeah,
out and see how it goes, but it's really like, I mean, it's sort of like a block fair, right? Like, there are artists selling their works. And so, yeah, it's really like they set up the, you know, we provide certain things, but they really are setting up like tables and chairs, and they're putting their artwork out and it's for sale, and they keep all the proceeds, and it's just a way to sort of highlight the work. But that's really, it's sort of just like a block fair almost. Yeah. They do it at Camden Plaza on the Upper East Side. And so they're gonna, there might be another one, maybe it's a different name. But I'll send the details for the one in the spring, so it would be great to just do a walkthrough and see what it looks like. So they do two, they do one in the spring and one in the fall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Jesse's I'm gonna be, we'll be in touch too about this, and. It was like, you know, there's quite a bit of work involved, but they love it, and it's been a really great success.
Once you get the ball rolling.
Yeah,
And
and
they're
they've
not
been
doing
doing it.
this project, you know, once you get the ball rolling, it goes,
It's
like,
hard
every
at
year there's
first,
a little hiccup here and
Yeah.
there, but like.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of gets into the role, into the schedule, so it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Is it like certain types of artists? Because I mean, obviously, we live in West Chelsea or
Yeah.
we have West
So-
Chelsea, I mean, there's like
So they
the
do
artists
like
here
a
are like.
blind sort of review, and they have like a form that people submit, and then a portfolio review, and sort our, yeah. And so we would work on that as a committee, and I would wanna set up sort of like another follow-up call and see how that works, but yeah, that's.
Well, you sold me when you talked about music. That's
Okay,
hard,
yeah,
and there has to be some dancing. I can cook
well,
that.
it's gotta be, there'll definitely be dancing in the
It's
music.
like, it's such all those things on that.
Great. Any other new business? Alright. Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
Second, right?
Sorry.
alright, thanks everyone.
Have a great night.